Hey everybody, welcome to another update video of Space Engineer Survival. I've done a little bit of work on the world since the last video, so I'll be showing that and also talking about some of the new features that have been added to the game which will certainly have an impact on our survival world. As you can see, I'm currently at the mining outpost. This is where I've been doing most of my work. And this is my interceptor. Now, I've had this for a while. I replaced the old interceptor with it, just because the old one was more of an aircraft type thing. The way I designed my interceptors, some of them are designed to be like dual purpose. They're flyable in space, obviously, because they've got the thrusters arranged in a way that will allow them to maneuver in a vacuum, but they're also shaped as aerodynamically as possible when using block-based building techniques, obviously. So they have things like wings, and if not tail fins, then you know, they just have a shape that you would think make them stable. They tend to be quite wide in the fuselage, so it functions as a lifting body. They definitely bear close resemblance to aircraft, and you probably noticed that if you've seen them. However, the downside being, because they are very much like aircraft, there's only so much crap you can put in them before they become very ungainly. And so I decided I'd take another look at designing pure spacecraft, although this one does actually still have very small stub wings. They're not designed for flight, they're just there basically so I can stuff more weapons on it if I need to. And also for a bit for looks, really, because aesthetics matter. Obviously, and I just like to give my ships a bit more flair to them. Even though it may not be the most optimal design, let's be honest, if we were designing the most optimal spacecraft, it would probably be a sphere with guns pointing out of it in as many directions as possible. And that wouldn't look very interesting. A lot of the designs I've seen on Workshop are basically just a kind of space dick, really. They're quite phallic in shape. They don't really have much to differentiate one design from another. Some have engine pods, which I believe I've spoken about before, well, maybe not in a video, but certainly in my guide on Steam. I don't like engine pods, which is why I'm probably going to end up redesigning that ship down there. The reason being that they're an obvious weak point. If your engine pod gets knocked off, you're in deep shit. So podded engines are a no-no for me. Podded weapons I can maybe live with. Or they don't even have podded engines, they have maybe wings of some sort. Mostly they're just fuselage shapes though. So anyway, this is an interceptor I designed in creative mode. And because this was before we had blueprints, I just deleted the old one and pasted this one in creative. I set the world to creative to do it. I don't like doing that with this world because I'm trying to keep it, you know, fairly legitimate. I don't want to start copy pasting stuff in because then it gets out of hand. But really, without blueprints, it was the only way to get this thing into the world without painstakingly going through and screenshotting every block placement and drawing up blueprints on a piece of graph paper or something, which I know some people do, but my ships tend to be designed in a way that precludes that. They have a lot of angles and curves on them. So anyway, that's what happened. I deleted the old fighter, so we still only have one. This just took its place. And I think by now the materials I've used up repairing this thing probably make up any difference. In fact, I think there's more sunk into this than there was in the other. So, I'll do a quick walk around of it because I haven't put a video up of this before. I'll just put my flashlight on. This is the I-71. It's a little bit chunkier than my usual fighters fuselage-wise. It's a bit taller because of the medium-sized cargo container inside, which holds all its ammunition and fuel, and also because it has an underslung weapon, this sniper rifle. The original variant had a reloadable rocket launcher there, and then as soon as Keen released the sniper rifle, I knew I had to stick one on it. That makes it handy for picking off turrets. I'm trying to capture NPC ships with it, although typically I have to get close enough to be in range of them to actually see where the turret is I'm aiming for, which can lead to problems. This thing's been quite badly beat up in combat. But I have brought some ships back as a direct result of it, so it's better than nothing, right? You can't see it because it's parked, maybe you will here, but there's actually a special flush connector that sits underneath. So I didn't want to add another block of depth to it because it's already getting a bit tall, so I just threw that on there. The only problem is because of the way that part's designed, the hitbox clips through the sniper rifle, making it literally impossible to repair it. So if that part ever gets damaged, I have to take off the rifle, take off the connector, and then rebuild both. Which is a bit of a pain, but it's certainly worth having just for the form factor of it. Now, originally, the very first version of this was armed with 6 Gatling guns and the reloadable launcher. The first thing to change was adding a variant with the sniper rifle, and then with the release of the CSD autocannons, I believe they're called, they look like little KWK-38s. I was, shall we say, interested in putting some of them on here because they're quite decently powerful. The Gatling guns are still much better at close range, they just shred everything, but the autocannons have a bit more punch to them and a bit more range. They also have very large, easy to see traces and a more controllable rate of fire, which makes them very nice for picking off modules and focus firing on actual components, whereas the Gatling gun just sprays bullets at everything, really. Put spotlights underneath, clustered around the guns, just so if I'm actually in complete shadow I can throw them on and see what I'm doing. Partially as landing lights, partially just so I don't crash into stuff. Obviously, because of the skybox, it is very dark in some places and it's hard to see where I'm going. I've added some extra lights around the guns there. Those are intended to be formation keeping lights to show where the sort of position would be for keeping formation. You just line those up with your cockpit when you're flying alongside, and you should be directly line abreast of this. Then obviously I've got my typical navigation lights, one on each little stub wing, and the dorsal light there which strobes on and off. As with my other interceptors, we do also have a separate ejector part here, but because we have a connector underneath which is hooked up to the gun and in turn the internal cargo system, this is actually not for reloading or refueling, although you can use it to do that. This is a chaff dispenser. It is full of steel plate basically, and I can just vomit that out if I need a bunch of small things to distract a turret, or if I want an instant cloud of debris to fuck with somebody who's chasing me. It's not the fastest ship going, it's actually kind of sluggish because of the added weight of all the weapons. Typically my twin engine, as in twin large engine space planes, tend to accelerate to maximum speed in 10 seconds or a little less. This took those 2 engines plus the 4 smaller engines to get to the same acceleration. For a while I was toying with adding some larger engines, say Sage's industrial engines, but they would just take up too much space. As it is, the only fighter I built with the industrial engines is literally built around them. It had to be to fit them in. Power is a single large reactor from memory and a small backup battery. The battery is just there to kickstart the system if the reactor's out of fuel and you need the conveyors running. Obviously if the conveyors aren't running and you try and refuel it, you're going to have problems. I didn't want to end up tearing the thing apart to add fuel. It's a pretty handy little ship in combat. It's a relatively small target. It's all light armor except for the nose. The nose is heavy armor because I was running into issues where it would shoot its own nose off. Those have more or less been curved now. More or less have been curbed. Words, difficult. But it's still there just in case. It's also there as an anti-ramming measure, so if I get a bit too eager at charging headfirst into something, I'll bounce off instead of explode. And obviously that houses the beacon too. As well as the nav lights on the top and the formation lights, you may also be able to see another light underneath mounted to the recoil assembly of the gun. It's just a small blue light. It doesn't strobe or anything. It's just permanently on as like a station keeping light. I just thought maybe it could use something underneath, and I quite like the look of it. The reason I have it turned on at the moment with all the thrusters running even though it's parked is because it's not actually anchored to anything. There's no connector on this landing pad, and when I turned it off before, I must have accidentally bumped it as I flew past because it started flying off all by itself. So thankfully I was able to spot that and go grab it. So I've just taken the leaving it switched on. It's not really using much fuel to do that anyway, so it doesn't matter. If I just quickly jump in the cockpit, still got a pretty good view, although the little gun fairings or wing fairings, whatever you want to call them, do block your sideways view slightly, and if you're looking out the side you can catch a fair bit of muzzle flash off the guns, but while looking straight ahead, you know, in combat and firing the guns, it's not too bad. You're probably not going to blind yourself. Visibility to the rear is alright. Obviously it would be better if we had a full bubble canopy or something, but this is good enough. This will do for now. And it weighs 27 tons. So jump out of that, had a little look around. I think I showed this before, so I'll just quickly run over it again. We've got our docking area, we've got Pobeda, we've got both Malyutka drones docked up and charging, so that they're both identical. I've actually saved the blueprint now as well, so I can pretty much produce as many of them as I want. I might make a third, or I might make it some kind of specialized construction ship. I'm not sure. I'm planning on having, obviously, space for 3 drones and space for 3 worker ships at this station. If I head down here, I did show this before, I'm quite certain, but I'll just quickly go over it again. This is meant to be like a sort of waiting area, sort of leisure area for crews of docked ships who aren't going to be staying long enough to live in the station, but will be staying long enough to get bored if they haven't got something to do. So that's all this is here for. Really, it was just an excuse to build something underneath the landing pad and sort of encase the fragile inner workings of the station at least a little bit, so if something bumped into the bottom of the landing pad, it wouldn't fuck up the whole station. Because that would obviously not be very productive. Now I've done a tiny bit of work in here, not really a whole lot. I'm going to have to forgive the noise. I've got it refining a lot of stuff. So we've got our hydroponics all set up there. And then we've got this. This is new. This is the bathroom. It's pretty Spartan. I didn't want to dig out enough of the asteroid to make it properly walled in. It should be vacuum sealed anyway. Now, obviously being a bathroom, it might seem a good idea for there to be some kind of air filtration system in here, an oxygen generator or something. I'll figure that out later. I might just replace this conveyor with it. I don't know. Like I said, that comes later. That's low priority. But we've got a shower, we've got a toilet. We haven't got a sink because, you know, you just turn on the shower, honestly. And also we've got sinks up here anyway. Other than that, the mining station has remained unchanged. I've actually been using this desk here to control Malyutka while it's mining with it, which is pretty effective. And somebody is joined, which I didn't expect. I have this set to online all the time, even when I'm just playing by myself. And I also wanted to show off one of my other ships, which I neglected to show last time. So, in creative mode, I took a look at my lifeboat and I figured I wanted to build a scientific sort of research ship that was a bit bigger than the lifeboat, but a fair bit smaller than my scientific frigates. And so I built this. As you can see, it's about 2.5, I want to say, 2.5 times the size of the lifeboat, maybe 3 times. Has a light defensive armament of interior turrets, same as the lifeboat does. The overall layout is very similar, it's just upscaled, and plus it has more living areas inside. So we'll turn our light off and let's jump in. Like the lifeboat, has a nice big glassed-in cockpit, but it also has passenger seats, so you can have your other crew members come up and sit in the front. Especially for long-haul flights, they can just chill out in there. Then you've got your living space. It's designed for maybe 2 to 4 crew, so 2 bunks, and they just obviously swap them according to who's on duty at the time. Sofa, TV, so they don't get bored, and a small work desk, much like the lifeboat has. If we continue through here, we've got some windows, so you can get a nice view of space, or at least a very small section of it. Bathroom, which is also the ship's utility room, or at least part of it. And it has a window, so you can get some natural light in there. Presumably nobody will be trying to perv on you in space. Another big window here, and there's actually another one on the other side of that, even though there's too much crap in the way to see it. This is the sort of mess slash planning slash briefing area. Obviously you've got your hydroponics there, your food dispenser, your fridges, all your kitchen stuff, and also the internal storage and the bioreactor. I think the water filter is, from memory, yeah, the water filter's behind the bunk. So it's all fully conveyed, all this works, it's all hooked up. In terms of refineries, it only has the one refinery, same as the lifeboat, so really it hasn't gained much over the lifeboat in terms of production capability, except the bioreactor and the hydroponics, and then it's more of a longer range version really. The lifeboat's meant to be a very short duration thing that you take out for maybe a couple of days at most. This is more what you would take out for a month or two. While we're here, we may as well very quickly swing by Xerxes Station, see if anything's changed in there. I don't think it has, because I don't think he's been playing lately. As you can see, he's still got quite a lot more production capacity in there than you would think. He's been very busy. Well, when he has been playing. Yeah, he still hasn't fixed that yet, so I don't think he's actually been on since the last video. But no doubt he will add more to this at some point in the near future. Anyway, with all of that said and done, I'm going to fly myself back to the mining outpost, since that's where I've been working. And I might wrap this video up there. As soon as I actually remember which asteroid the mining outpost is. I think it's this one. Yep. There we go. I was going to do a quick show of the fighter, but I've got no ammunition for the autocannons. I need to do a couple mining runs to get some. So it's not really fully operational at the moment, but I'll probably do a video demonstrating it at some point in the future, either just playing sort of creative dogfights against somebody, or trying to take out a ship in this. As for what's been changed, they've added blueprints to survival. The way it works is it creates a hologram, and you can then basically move through the hologram, welding up individual blocks. Now, the idea I had was a large sort of shipyard array, mostly just for looks, but then you have a piston-driven wall of welders, which can move through the holographic blueprint, welding it one layer of blocks at a time. So that's going to be a major project that needs to be built. I'm not sure where it will be built. Probably not at one of the existing stations, because we're going to need quite a lot of space. There'll be 2 separate ones. We'll need one for large ships and one for small ships. actually, no, I'm wrong. We don't. We can use the one array for both by using the rotor trick, which the devs have actually made a thing now, so you don't need to do any trickery. It's a possibility to technically fuse large ship and small ship grids through rotors, so I can do that. That's what I think I'll do. So then you'll have your hologram, and then you can just have the wall of welders move through and build the ship as you go. So that's not going to be in action for a while probably, but once it is, it will make it a lot quicker and easier to build up our fleet. We may even be able to get a capital ship in here at some point. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.